Three. Welcome back to another episode of the Rossetti and Stewart Podcast. If you see behind me, I have Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's May the 4th. May the 4th be with you all. Anyways, this isn't about Star Wars. This is a sports podcast, and I'm joined by Justin, and I'm also joined today with Clarence Fields, a Washington Commanders fan. How are you doing today, Clarence?
I'm doing pretty good. Enjoying the week. I got a lot of thoughts. So,
yeah, for you that don't know too, he also helped work with the Army football team a couple last year. How was that experience for you?
Working with the Army football team was very interesting. I really love what I did. I did equipment management. Had to help out with practices, games, and all that. So it was good experience being on the field with the guys.
See, Clarence has a good football background, which is going to make for a great podcast today. What we're doing today is just breaking down the NFL draft. But first things first, I also do want to ask Justin, how was your day going so far?
It's doing good, man. Thanks for asking. Welcome to the podcast, Clarence. I mean, you're more than welcome to hop on in future episodes. But as far as my day goes, I think it's been pretty good. I can't complain. Just graduated college, and so I know what it's like to be feeling stressed, especially during finals week too. So I'm right there with you, my man. Tony knows as well, doing like graduating semester earlier. So finally got that out of the way. So I feel like a big sense of relief and pressures off my shoulders, and I feel much better now. So
yeah, congratulations, Justin.
Thank you.
Yeah, but anyways, to get right into it, though, we're going to start with our quick hitters. And mine came in the NHL, and it's just Joe Pavelski scores 4 goals against the Kraken in Game 1 of the second round, and they lose 5-4. The next night, Leon Draisaitl scored 4 goals against the Vegas Golden Knights, lost in round 1. So I thought that would be crazy. Back-to-back 4-goal games. I mean, completely different games too, but the same result. Both teams had a 4-goal scorer, but neither team won the game. And no one else scored on the team. Like, the Oilers lost 6-4 last night to Vegas. And the fans are rocking. I think another quick hitter you could talk about is just their elaborate entrance at the beginning where they have the night come out. I mean, it's like you're in Universal Studios. It's pretty crazy. Check it out if you see it. So that's my quick hitter for today. And Clarence, did you see anything this week that really caught your eye in sports?
Yeah. The NBA playoffs has been really interesting. You got the Heat and the Knicks that are tied in the series right now. I thought that was pretty cool. I want to see how the Knicks progress through that series. Maybe pull off an upset against the Heat. And then you saw Philly was able to take Game 1 in Boston. That series is tied right now too. So.
Fair enough.
Speaking of that, like James Harden.
Yeah, go ahead.
What do you think of Justin? You could talk about it too. Like, what do you think of James Harden going back to Houston? James Harden in Game 1.
Well, I mean, they needed every point, man. They came back. Boston probably should have won that game, but to give the hats off to the 76ers. James Harden, like you said, looked like Houston Rockets. James Harden dropping 45. Obviously they came out flat in Game 2. Personally, for me, I thought they shouldn't have played Embiid. It was clear he wasn't 100%, but they're trying to put their best player out there, their MVP. So we'll see. I think this will be a longer series, and people will give it credit for. It's probably gonna go 6 or 7. I'm still gonna take the Celtics though, but the 76ers, they're a talented enough team. They're gonna put up a legit fight. So
yeah, and I also want to add something too. I was talking a lot about the Suns, but the Nuggets, like, they might be the real deal this year now that they're fully healthy. Nikola Jokic, I mean, no, he didn't go 3-peat on us, but I mean, he had 46 the other night. He's just been absolutely insane, Nikola Jokic, and that whole team. I think it'd be really cool if the Sixers can make their way into the finals. I'd like to see a Sixers and Nuggets matchup to see how Jokic and Embiid square off against each other.
That's fair. I would say this real quickly. I think whoever wins the Celtics and 76ers series, I think they're going to the finals. So
Yeah, I could see that as well. I mean, I think the Heat, like Jimmy Butler in the playoffs, is obviously always insane. But the thing is, like, I don't think they have enough firepower to make it through 3 rounds, get into the finals. And I think the Knicks have a really good, talented team, but it's the same for them. I know Julius Randle had a really good comeback year after having a little bit of a down year last year. But yeah, I think my favorite to win is the winner of the Nuggets and Suns series, though. I think whoever wins that series will. But LA too. I mean, LA just beat Golden State, Anthony Davis at 30 and 23. I mean, I think it's really up for grabs this year.
No, it is. It definitely is. And like you said, like it's one game. I think the Warriors are gonna bounce back tonight against the Lakers. But the thing is, the Warriors they have to get into the paint, draw some fouls. You can't always rely on the 3-point shot. And I think the thing that the Lakers do really well is they're big, and you have Anthony Davis, you have Vanderbilt, you have all these guys. They can drive to the basket. LeBron still goes to the basket, get calls, go to the line. I mean, the free throw disparity in game one was absurd. And, for people saying the refs and it's rigged, no, it's just the Lakers like using it to their advantage. And that's probably why, along with the fact that 80 at 30 and 23, that's probably the reason why they won game one. So listen, Curry will play a lot better. Thompson will play a lot better. Jordan Poole, I know he's been getting a lot of flack lately for, a lot of reasons, but he'll play better too. Draymond, like the whole crew will play better. So I expect Golden State to bounce back and win game two tonight. So.
Yeah, my thing with it is like you said, they're just a lot bigger. And even though Draymond Green's a good defender, I mean, Anthony Davis, top 5 player in the league this year. I mean, 26 points, 13 rebounds. He went back to New Orleans AD this year. He had one stint where he was on the injury list for like about a month. But other than that, like his most healthy season in a little bit. This is the best version I've seen in AD, since before he came to the Lakers. And in my opinion, if this team were to win the finals as of right now, I think he's the finals MVP to me, not LeBron. As good as LeBron has been, I think AD has just been had that big of an impact, especially, knowing him, how he did against Memphis, especially against, defensive player of the year candidate, Jaren Jackson Jr. I'm in awe of AD of how he's been playing lately, and just the team as a whole. I mean, the team's been shooting the ball well. Austin Reeves had a phenomenal round one. We want to pick up for them. I mean, Austin Reeves been incredibly efficient, getting D'Angelo Russell. I think this team's just clicking. Like D'Angelo Russell in that final game against the Grizzlies, he was just pulling shots from wherever it may be, and I think that LA has a good chance to advance to the next round.
I agree. I think they have more than a great chance. Clarence, did you want to add anything else, or are you good?
I would like to see Celtics in the finals. I was rooting for them last year. I don't know. It's just something about Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. That star factor. It's fun to watch, and I think I would like to see them host up a championship.
No, I agree. I have them as my favorites too in the East, and I think this is their year to win it too. So I would have to agree with you on that front.
Yeah, I mean that duo. I mean they need to win one eventually because, obviously they've been together for a long time now, but I feel like last year as well they were so close, and even early on in the whole Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum thing whenever they played LeBron in 2018 in the before the NBA Finals. Even them taking them to Game 7, they've been on the cusp of finally getting it done, and I think this could finally be their year. So I hope to see them win one eventually. The core is too good for them not to win one.
No, I agree. They've been together for it seems like forever. Meanwhile, they're not even 26 yet, which is still crazy. But that's just, once again, guys coming into the league when they're teenagers. So you have that, and you just can't break that duo up. I know there's been conversations about trades and X, Y, and Z. If the ball bounces their way in several series over the years, we have a championship. So I think the duo is more than capable of winning multiple championships since they are still very young. And yeah, I think this year is probably the best chance they'll have. Because, you think Milwaukee got eliminated in the first round. That was really, the big threat to everyone. So,
Yeah, no, exactly. Like Milwaukee getting eliminated, who would have expected that, especially with Giannis? And I mean, not only did they get eliminated, they lost in 5 games. Like who would have no one predicted that. No
No.
one. Like you could say like, oh, the Heat will take them to 7. No, they won like convincingly.
Jimmy Butler, baby. Jimmy Butler.
Yeah. Playoff P too.
It will be a game 7 in the conference championship in the East with Celtics and the Heat.
That would be sick. I'd love to see like Jimmy Butler against the Sixers again, and I mean that has a good story written all over it too. But I think that'll be a good series.
No, I think that the Heat Knicks series, I think it's gonna be pretty good too. I know like Jimmy was out game 2, but I think he's on track to play game 3. And if he plays, I think it's gonna go back and forth, honestly.
Yeah, Heat and Celtics. I mean, anytime I think of Heat and Celtics, I just think of LeBron and Paul Pierce. And I just caught one of my mistakes. I said Jim. I was thinking 76ers and Heat would be a series too as well to see Butler play the Sixers. That's what I meant to say.
No, you're good.
Yeah.
Shoot.
But yeah, anyways, I think that's a good transition point to talk about the NFL draft. First things first, I just want to ask. I'll ask Clarence first. Do you see anyone that's like really won this draft? Like, is there a team's draft that really stuck out to you?
I didn't really look too much into the later round picks for every team. But there are a few picks that I was very like, this pick is really good. For instance, the Atlanta Falcons, I believe they picked at 9. They picked Bijan Robinson. I think that was a very good pick for them because you look at a team like the Falcons who have a young quarterback in Desmond Ridder. Whether people think he's the guy or not, Atlanta thinks he's the guy. They used the 3rd round pick on him. They drafted Drake London last year. They drafted Kyle Pitts with a high pick the year before that. So you really look at that roster. That roster on offense had some top touted athletes on the offense side of the ball, and I feel like that roster really needed another star who can make an impact and really change the game. I feel like Bijan Robinson fits the scheme and what they want to do there. So I'm excited to see what he put together with a run-first offense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like for example, Desmond Ridder at Cincinnati. Like you saw that team run the ball a ton, and they ran their way all the way into the college football playoff. So I mean, I think you're going to see a lot of that, especially with how the mobile quarterbacks is. But I couldn't agree more. Like Bijan Robinson in Texas was amazing. So yeah, I like that take a lot.
Mm-hmm. You look at what the Giants doing in New York with the Barkley and Jones duo and what they build in their scheme. I mean, I feel like Barkley was a big part of what you see Jones do this year and the success that he had. So I feel like that would help Desmond Ridder a lot.
Yeah, I think it took a lot of the New York pressure too off of Daniel Jones as well to finally have like a stud running back like Saquon Barkley. And Daniel Jones too, like he can move too. He's a very athletic quarterback, and I mean that just opened up the field for him a ton, just having Barkley back. And I'm excited to see that in the future too as well.
Yeah, I
Oh yeah, as far as Bijan Robinson goes, yeah, I like to pick a lot. See, like I'm the kind of guy, I'm not crazy about running backs going in the first round, but by all accounts, Bijan Robinson, people have considered him one of the best prospects. The best prospect potentially in this year's draft, which that's a lot of high praise. And unless like you're like a Barry Sanders or that Saquon Barkley, like you said, I'm just very hesitant on running back. So I think he's going to be a very good back at the worst. And I think Atlanta, you're seeing they have some pieces now. Not to mention they already have a starting back on their roster that had 1,000 yards rushing. The name isn't coming to me right now though, but it will pretty soon though. But the Falcons, they're building an offense. It's kind of similar to San Francisco's. A lot of run stuff, short passes. They just need to get Kyle Pitts involved more. Last year, he kind of regressed significantly, and I think that was more scheme than anything. It wasn't so much the talent or anything, but yet Atlanta, they have some nice talent. They're going to be very competitive this year. So,
Yeah, they also have. Do they have Kadero Patterson back too as well?
I think he's still on the team. Yeah, so that's another guy. It's very versatile. You can be a wide receiver, kick returner. You can be a running back too. So you have versatility with this offense.
They should have a ton of speed, and plus, like, they should be getting Ridley back too. I think, right?
No, he's the Jaguars, dude.
He's with the Jaguars now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't see that. Dude, that's crazy. I didn't even know. I didn't even know that.
The trade actually happened last year. I think he just didn't play.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. He was a beast in his first season for them.
No, he had like 1,300 receiving yards, so he's no joke.
Yeah, but no, Justin. But do you have any team that really stuck out to you that had a good draft?
Well, I'm going to be kind of biased here, but I'm going to go Steelers. Quite frankly, if you look at their draft picks, coming into the draft, they needed probably an extra offensive lineman. Obviously, needed a cornerback, needed to beef up their defensive line, more depth with a linebacker too, and they pretty much addressed all of that as best you can. I mean, Broderick Jones, we're looking at a potential Pro Bowl left tackle here for Kenny Pickett for the next decade. I really like that pick. I know offensive linemen and tackles, they're not the sexiest guys because they don't jump off the screen highlight reel wise, but they're just as vital as a receiver, running back, and helping the quarterback extend plays. And obviously the hometown kid, Joey Porter Jr., a cornerback, he was very good at Penn State. I know he didn't have a lot of interceptions, but he had a lot of pass deflections, very active, and I like that pick a lot. Keanu Benton, the defensive tackle. I'm not gonna lie, when I first heard his name, I wasn't crazy about the pick, but when I read more about him and like the potential he has, kind of opened my eyes up a bit. He'll be learning with Cam Hayward, so that's as pretty good as you can get as far as veteran leadership. And Darnell Washington, people didn't realize he was a first-round pick on a lot of mock draft boards. So the fact that you were able to get him in the third round to me is a steal. As talented as Pat Freiermuth is potentially is, I think Darnell Washington's a much better blocker, and he can catch the ball too. So that's another threat for Kenny Pickett to throw to, as well as provide solid blocking for Najee Harris. And Nick Herbig, the linebacker from Wisconsin, once again, he was solid. I don't think he'll be a superstar, but I think he'll be a serviceable player alongside Cole Holcomb, who they signed in free agency. So I think I like their linebacking room a little bit better than I did last year. And they also drafted Corey Trice from Purdue. Now, I know he didn't fall till the 6th or 7th round, but I think he can start next year, or at the very worst be a backup, and that's another depth piece. And last but not least, now Spencer Anderson, he was a 7th round pick, but I think you can never have enough depth in the NFL. And I think with the offensive line, they're really stacked. They don't have like superstars on that team, but they have guys that can get the job done, a bunch of very good players. And like I said, all it takes is one offensive lineman. I think it's Broderick Jones, and they can transform your entire line and take it from good to elite. So I think the Steelers' offensive line is going to be very good this year. And the bigger picture here, Najee Harris, I'm going to make a bold prediction here. He's going to lead the NFL in rushing yards next year. Because you have Darnell Washington, you have the offensive line, you have dogs. That's been the theme for the Steelers this year. And I think Najee Harris is going to go off big time. So there you have it. Steelers are my winners in my book.
Yeah, I really like the Steelers draft as well. When I was watching the draft, I thought there was no better tackle that fit what the Steelers wanted to do and wants to do than Broderick Jones. I think Broderick Jones is going to be a really good left tackle for the Steelers for years to come. And how could you not take Joey Porter Jr. with your second pick? You know what I mean? Like it was almost like you have to take him. So I'm interested to see what he do with Patrick Peterson in that room now. I heard a little bit about Keon Bennett. I think he can be really good. I'm curious to see how much he develops, but I won't be surprised if he's a really serviceable starter for the next couple of years for the Steelers.
Yeah, I was impressed with how the Steelers did. I mean, definitely Najee's going to have improvement. Number one, rushing, that's going to be tough, but especially just Derrick Henry still existing. But their line's going to be getting worse, too. So, I mean, you never know. Jonathan Taylor, Colts they're going downhill as well. So that could have been the room for Najee. But yeah, I liked how they addressed the needs. I mean, Broderick Jones, I mean, you're not going to go wrong with a pick from Georgia. I believe Trent Brown from the Patriots was from Georgia as well. He filled in right in for Tom Brady when they won the Super Bowl that one season. So, I mean, hey, go with your Georgia draft picks. They also got Darnell Washington too. But the thing about Darnell Washington, I mean, you got the 6'6", 6'7" tight end. The thing about Georgia, he wasn't even their best tight end last year. Brock Bowers was. And you got the stud in Darnell Washington as well. That just goes to show you how deep Georgia's talent is. And, you know, I'm happy that they went to that team to get talent because you saw how they did in the national championship game. Joey Porter Jr., he's another one. He left a little bit early. He hasn't got as many touches as, maybe the other backs in the league. But I definitely think he's going to be a good player. You knew it was going to happen. His dad played here, went to Penn State. There was no way that they weren't going to take him with that second pick as soon as he, fell to the second round. So that was an obvious pick for them. But overall, I mean, I think they did a pretty good job. I mean, just overall addressing their team needs. Kenny Pickett, there was some times he was running for his life last year. I think this year will be a lot better with, getting Broderick on the team. So, yeah, kudos to the Steelers. I think they actually had a good draft. They're historically not amazing at the drafts for the last couple of years and stuff. But I think this year, it might be like their TJ Watt year, I guess you could say. So I think they did a great job with it.
I think the biggest thing for me is almost every guy on that list can start day one. Like your top three can be starters, So I think that's the biggest thing with me. You have guys in that roster too that can develop too while playing, and the depth for the offensive line, that's going to be key. And I just think Kenny Pickett, like the writing's on the wall. I think he's going to take a massive leap in year two. I know last year, if you heard me talk, I was like, kind of on the fence with Pickett, and that's nothing against him. It was just like, I don't know. But I think this year you have year two with him. Year two under the Matt Canada offense, which, still kind of scratching my head at that. We'll see how that plays out, though. But, I mean, you have him, Freiermuth, Deontay Johnson, still a veteran, George Pickens. You have a very good offense here. And this is why I wish that Matt Canada wasn't the coordinator, because if you had, a good coordinator, this team, I think, could be a top 10 offense. But I think it will be slightly below that, unfortunately. But I hope I'm wrong. But I mean, their defense should be pretty good too. So the Steelers, I've said this 1,000 times. I'm going to say it again. They're going to be a playoff team this year. I know the AFC is loaded with young quarterbacks, but as far as forget quarterbacks, throw that out the window. NFL's a team game. From top to bottom, the Steelers have one of the better rosters in the AFC. And that might be jumping the gun, but I really don't care. I really do believe that. And I think when it's all said and done, they're going to be a playoff team come this season. So,
yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I mean, last year they were 9-8. It was literally an identical season to last year for Ben. I mean, the team just refuses to rebuild. Like that was a pretty fast rebuild after moving on from a Hall of Fame quarterback to be 9-8 the very next season. Yeah, I mean, their defense, it's been great. TJ Watt, I mean, and all that. I mean, their team just added Joey Porter Jr., Patrick Peterson as well. That's going to be huge. And I mean, if they can have that secondary running, especially adding those two players with Minka Fitzpatrick, and I mean, I still have high hopes for Trey Norwood as well. I think that this team is a loaded team, and I couldn't agree more. I definitely think that's the playoff team next year.
I'll let you speak, Clarence, but I just think, you just think of this. You have, you were basically brought back the same team as last year, essentially, minus, Miles Jack and Devin Bush. And you basically, free agency, you signed a bunch of guys that can help this team. And then you add in the draft too. So I just think if you win nine games last year in a rebuild mode, I think you're going to be a playoff team. That's just my opinion. So
yeah, you look at a lot of games the Steelers played. They fought in a lot of games. One game that stuck out to me is the Jets game. You was winning that game in the fourth quarter, and you collapsed. So I think Steelers will be there again in a playoff picture come December. and will have an opportunity to compete for playoff spot. I think George Pickens, you will see another level of the type of receiver that you have. I think George Pickens is going to be a really good receiver, $20 million receiver when it's all said and done. A lot of people get on Deontay Johnson, but Deontay Johnson is a playmaker. You're not asking him to be your number one guy. He's your number two. He can do a lot in the slot for you as well. And it's really going to depend for the Steelers on Kenny Pickett and Najee Harris. I think that the offense is going to run as Najee Harris run and as Kenny Pickett runs. I'm looking forward to see what the Steelers got going on. But that's just my opinion on the team. Kenny Pickett and Najee Harris is going to be the catalyst because you already know what TJ Watt's going to give you. But I think the team can take another step if Kenny Pickett can develop next year and if Najee Harris can get to the form that you would like to see him.
Yeah, no, and I think like their wide receiving core too is only going to get better from here because Johnson, he's only been in the league a couple of years out of Toledo. George Pickens, you saw last year, he's a highlight reel. But we're also forgetting Kelvin Austin's still on this team. Like they still got Pat Freiermuth. You still have Connor Hayward, and then you also add Darnell Washington as well. So this team has a lot of pieces, and they're young too. So yeah, Steelers got a future ahead of them.
They do.
No, I agree. That's the thing. I think the biggest takeaway from this team so far this year is depth. I think they have depth at a lot of positions. And, we all know how the NFL works. Guys go down like flies, and like you need that depth to like kind of like stay afloat throughout the year. So I think that's definitely important. Tony, where'd you go? You there? I can't hear you, dude.
I have to run and grab my charger. My Chromebook's about to die.
Okay, yeah, you're good. You're good. Okay, cool. Yeah, so as far as that goes, I guess we can just wait. He grabs his charger though. But I'd agree. I think the Steelers, they're gonna be pretty solid this year. And like you said, the growth of Kenny Pickett and Najee Harris too, it's definitely gonna be a key in all of this though. So I'd agree. So like while he's gone though, like I'll ask you, is there any team that like drafted a player that you like shook your head over or made a pick that you thought was questionable or nah, not so much?
There actually is. I was more so like with the Giants, like why did they wait so long to get a receiver? I feel like with their scheme and with teams already struggling to contain the Barkley and Dane Jones option game, I was confused on why they waited so long on taking a receiver. I seen like 6 receivers go before they even took one. They took Jalen Hyatt, who I think can be really good in their scheme because you see with a guy like Darius Slayton can do getting over the top since teams are going to stack the box against Saquon Barkley. I would have liked to see them take another receiver earlier than Jalen Hyatt. So I'm not necessarily talking about the Jalen Hyatt pick, but I'm necessarily talking about the draft scheme. I would like to see the Giants been more aggressive on trading up for the receiver that they wanted. But they did take Dante Banks with the first round pick. I think Dante Banks is a need for them. They don't have any corners that scare you in the secondary that can make plays and who can go against top receivers. So, that's all I really thought about a team not being aggressive. That was really the Giants.
Fair enough. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go. You can go.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, just your Giants point. I think to me, like they're still behind the 8 ball as far as like just talent wise on offense. I think the NFC is gonna be their friend because I think that conference is a lot weaker. So I still think they're gonna be in the mix for a playoff spot. But I don't know. Like paying Daniel Jones all that money, and like you said, they're like a defensive first team. And offense seems to be like the secondary thing for me, honestly. And I guess we'll see. Like you said, Jalen Hyatt is a very solid player. I agree with that, but we'll see on that front. I don't know how elite he'll be, but no, I agree. I think the Giants. I like the pick too. I think Deontay Banks has potential to be a very good corner, and yeah, I just think offensively the Giants are still lagging. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and it's disappointing. It's disappointing if you ask me. And Giants is in my team's division. So, you'll think I have a hatred for the Giants, but I really like what they do in New York with Brian Dable. So
Fair enough.
I would have liked to see them take a receiver early in the first round, second round. But they waited. And, it benefits me. But, it would have been nice to see what Jones could have done with another premier weapon. Because they got their other boy on injury. I forget his name. The dude that got hurt 2 years in a row, the receiver.
Was Sterling Shepard?
Yeah, Sterling Shepard. They got Sterling Shepard as well. So you could have added a top premier weapon with Slayton, Sterling Shepard, and a first round receiver. And then you could have turned around and took a Jalen Hyatt later. I feel like you can never have enough weapons, especially with the division you win.
No, I agree. And just to fill you in, Tony, I was just asking him, was there any picks in particular that kind of like bothered you or you didn't agree with? And he was talking about the Giants not drafting a wide receiver earlier. And that was pretty much our conversation. So you can respond to that if you want, or you can also answer the question of who do you thought didn't have a good draft in your eyes?
No, I agree. They waited a while to get a wide receiver. But I will say this about Jalen Hyatt. I think that he's not a third-round pick. I think he's higher than that. Deontay Johnson, we just talked about him earlier. He was a third-round pick too. And before the year started, it was Cedric Tillman. He's going to be the wide receiver of this draft out of Tennessee. Ends up being Jalen Hyatt when Cedric Tillman goes down. Just watching him play in person against Pitt and then see how he played against Alabama. This guy's ready for the big game. I think Jalen Hyatt's a really good wide receiver. He really broke out. If you can improve that quick in that short amount of time, I think you could do it in the NFL. I think you could do it in the NFL as well. So my high hopes are on Jalen Hyatt. But like you guys said, they tried to get Kenny Galladay last year. Didn't have the Giants' tenure they wanted them to. Obviously, a lot of injury bugs for the team as well. So I definitely think they need more. They definitely need more. But, I mean, like you guys said, they're a defense-first team, and they attacked defense hard last year in the draft, especially given Kayvon Thibodeau. So, I mean, I think the Giants are still going to be hovering around the playoffs. Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley. I mean, you still got a pretty good team there. But are they a Super Bowl contender? Are they this? Are they that? I don't think so because, they had a lot of close games last year. But I will say this, it takes a good team to win the close games. So I also got to give them credit for that as well to still make the playoffs. But, yeah, I think we'll just have to wait and see because I don't know. I like I said, I think Jalen Hyatt is going to be a really good wide receiver. But do they have enough firepower in the receiving core? And to me, I don't think so compared to how other receiving core been. But hey, I mean, Giants, I still have hope for them. I still think that they'll be a good team next year.
Yeah,
fair enough.
I think so too. They're gonna be a tough out game to game. I would say another team that I was really questioning is pick 12 with the Lions. They traded back a few spots. Yep. I think Bijan Robinson has a lot to do with Gibbs going so early, but I really was excited for the Lions trading back because I was like, all right, a guy like Christian Gonzalez is falling down the board. They just got rid of Jeff Okudah, so what better way to add to your defense? And looking on that side of the ball at 12, you got some picks. You got pick 18 as well coming up, and they took running back. I was like, running back first round? Like, you got all these running backs in your room already, and you want to go another running back at 12. At 12. You had the edge rusher and Luke Van Ness that went to pick after that. Like I said, you had Christian Gonzalez slide down the board. You could have went interior to do it from Pittsburgh, as y'all know. Casey. They had options. I feel like their first two picks in the draft should have been defense, but they didn't do that at 12.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I was going to be my team that was I was scratching my head over. And Jahmyr Gibbs, I think he's a very good back, but most mock drafts didn't have him going to the second round or at earliest. And you said, with their second pick, they took Jack Campbell. And once again, I thought that was a reach. you could have gotten him in the second or third round potentially. And it just kind of sucks. I still think the Lions are gonna be good this year, but I think this was the draft where if they played their cards right, they could have really done damage and really accelerated that rebuild. And I still think they're going to be like a playoff team this year, but I thought they missed the boat on some picks. And like I said, the guys they drafted, they could have gotten later on in the draft. And I just think, like you said, they could have drafted a Kalijah Kancey. Heck, they could have even gone wide receiver, and I wouldn't have been mad at that. Another cornerback, I mean, like you said, Christian Gonzalez, even offensive line, all those guys are better options than Jahmyr Gibbs. And I think, like you said, you have running backs on your roster already, and I just didn't think. I know Jamal Williams with the Saints now, and DeAndre Swift got traded to the Eagles too. So I understand there might be some need for running back now, but like I said, running backs, unless you're BJ and Robinson, like you can get quality guys in the third, fourth, fifth rounds. We just saw with the Jets, they got Israel Abanikanda. I think he'll be a very good back in the NFL. So, you can find value in later rounds. I just don't always necessarily agree with, we have to draft a running back in the first round, because they have, out of all the players in positions in football, they seem to have the shortest lifespan as far as productivity in the league. So,
yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, you could have, I don't know if Jahmyr Gibbs, he's a good running back. He was really good at Georgia Tech, then transferred to Alabama. He was good there too. But I mean, I don't know if I would have taken him 12th.
Yeah. Like you said, Gibbs is a really good player, but I don't think he was the value just wasn't there for that pick. I saw they traded back. They traded back, which was a good thing. But even at 6, they could have got a really, really good player to add to that defense with already an impact guy, Aiden Hutchinson. So, I would have went differently, but I guess the Lions had other thoughts in their mind.
Yeah, no, I agree. I still think Jahmyr Gibbs will provide some value, but I think you could have gotten more value somewhere else. And, time will tell. But I just really wasn't crazy about the Lions draft this year. Really wasn't. And I thought this was the year that they could have really done some damage. But, I guess we'll see, man. I guess we'll see. So, Tony, can you hear us now?
Yeah. Did you guys hear anything I said earlier?
No.
Okay,
once you started talking, it just went out pretty much. So
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Jahmyr Gibbs pick. Like you were saying, Justin, they could have got a running back later in the draft. Jahmyr Gibbs was a beast at Georgia Tech, played his way into transferring to Alabama. I think he's going to be a good NFL running back, no doubt. But Clarence brought up Kalijah Kancey. Imagine adding Kalijah Kancey with Aiden Hutchinson. I mean, Kalijah Kancey had the highest 40 in defensive tackle history for the combine. So I think that would have been a scary, line to go against. But hey, they had different thoughts. I guess they addressed the team need getting a running back now that Swift's gone. But at the same time, like you said, they could have done more damage. I like the Laporta pick. I like the Hendon Hooker pick. I think Laporta is going to be a good tight end in the league. The only thing I didn't get is you trade T.J. Hawkinson earlier in the – it's probably a contract thing, but you trade T.J. Hawkinson, an Iowa tight end, to draft an Iowa tight end. So, I mean – I don't know. I think you traded your tight end, you traded your running back just to draft these positions again. So I think it's almost like they took a step back by doing that. But at the same time, I think these players are going to be good. I think they'll be around in the same boat where they were last year. They'll be a good team, but how good is the question. I think now that Green Bay is not as good though, and I think it's still the Vikings division to win. But I still think that their division's not as tough, so I still got to give them the edge and still think that they'll at least be a winning team this year. But that leads me to you brought up Israel Abanikanda. A team I did like that did pretty good was the New York Jets. And what they did was they drafted Joe Tippmann, a good lineman. You also get Will McDonald as well. Well, Will McDonald, he was at Iowa State last year. Didn't have as good as a year as he usually did. But he was a big part of the team that made the Big 12 championship, the same team that was able to defeat Oklahoma earlier in that year. He had back-to-back seasons with 13 sacks. I think putting him on that defense is going to work wonders for that team. And then you draft 2 linemen. Not only do you add Tippmann, but you had Carter Warren, who was a driving force in that line for Kenny Pickett a couple years ago, and even last year for Israel Abanikanda. So you're adding someone that already has chemistry with a player you drafted in Abanikanda. Not only did you get Abanikanda, but you got someone with I think it was like a 4.34, 4.40. It was something absolutely insane. So you get Abanikanda, who's one of the fastest 40s in the draft in the 5th round. That's a steal to me. And I think him and Breece Hall, that's going to be a good duo right there, especially knowing that they're cutting ties with Michael Carter. So I think the Jets had a really good draft this year, but that's my food for thought on that.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Go ahead.
I'm glad that Aaron Rodgers out in the NFC. So,
That's funny. That's funny. No, I don't blame you.
Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, and then they got Aaron Rodgers too, and then you still have Garrett Wilson as well, and you got your pieces this year. So they added those linemen for a reason, because last year Zach Wilson, Mikey White, they were running for their lives last year. So this year, getting this lineman, that's a good pickup.
Good pickup. I think I want to stay in the AFC. I don't want to shift too quick from Jets, but I just have to mention this team, the Texans. I really love what the Texans done. When you're talking about a team with so little talent, as compared to the NFL, as the Texans, and picking high, as many years as they have been, you need star power. And I felt like they made the right decision at number 2 with C.J. Stroud. Some people thought they was not going to go quarterback there. They thought they was going to go Will Anderson at number 2. But I think the league has shown you, when you have a potential elite quarterback on the board, you take the quarterback. You don't play around, because if you don't, you'll get yourself in a situation where you are too far back in the draft to take the good quarterback, So I feel like picking C.J. Stroud at 2 was the best option. And then they traded up to go get the player that they wanted initially in Will Anderson. So you potentially got 2 blue chip players on both sides of the ball, And then you look at what they did in the 2nd round, adding to the O-line. They picked the center out of Penn State. When you're picking centers, you really can't go wrong a lot of times, especially when you're picking that early, because you usually get the best center on the board, because centers don't typically go 1st round. But the pick I really love for them was Nathaniel Tank Dell out of Houston. I really like Dale because his playmaking ability. I think he's the type of guy that you can plug him into a lot of offenses, and he can be that versatile weapon that you need that can make explosive plays. So I like what the Texans are building. And they had a lot of other picks. They went offensive line again, linebacker, safety, went another receiver later. But I really like what they did, especially with Nathaniel Dell pick.
Yeah, speaking of Dell too, he had back-to-back seasons with over 1,300 yards. And you're putting them with C.J. Stroud. And then you add the best defender in the draft, Will Anderson. You can't go wrong with what they did. They traded up. They're like, okay, we want Will Anderson. We want Stroud. We can't get both. We're going to trade up. We're going to get both. So What do they have to lose, too? They won 2 games last year. They made the right decision, in my opinion, getting these players. And I was actually going to say, I think they're the winners of the draft, getting those talented players. I know there's a stigma around Ohio State quarterbacks, but I think Justin Fields is starting to break that mold a little bit. I know he wasn't really a pass-first quarterback, which is rare to see, but he was starting to break out a little bit. I think C.J. Stroud's a really talented quarterback. I like what they did. I think that the Texans are in the right direction. Question is this team a playoff team next year? Nowhere near it. But did they make the right steps in the right direction? Yes.
I think taking the quarterback at 2 puts them in a position to next year say, we can take the best player available and make our team better. If C.J. Stroud is that guy, in 2 years, you can look up and here we go. Texans are now in a position Jaguars was in. They took the quarterback, and then the previous year they was able to sign a bunch of free agents because they're not paying a lot of guys. So they can get a lot of good players on very expensive deals, but it's not hurting them because Trevor Lawrence on the rookie contract. So I won't be surprised if you see a team like the Texans eventually is in that same boat where they take a tremendous step in a year or two because of that.
Yeah, I'd like to add on to that too is not only can they add those players, but their division is not good. Like the Titans, they lost a lot of players. The Colts fell off the face of the earth last year. The Jaguars are your team to beat right now. I think the Texans, like, I know I said they're nowhere near the playoffs, but I wouldn't be shocked if they have like immediate improvement. Like I'm saying, like 2 to 7 wins. Like I could see a 5-win, 6-win improvement next year, just based off of how rough their division is.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'd agree. I think the thing about that is there's a reason why they called the NFL not for long. So teams that look bad now, if they play their cards right and they draft well and they develop well and they have the right people in place, you can be good in 2 years. Like it's not a foregone conclusion to think that the Texans can be contenders in 2 years if they do everything right. That's key though. But I mean, it's the same thing with teams that are good now. If you play your cards wrong and you miss your window, like you can get bad real quick. Just ask the Rams. So, that wasn't not so much the Rams. They had a lot of bad luck last year with injuries, but now people don't consider them like a great team anymore, and you see like the fallout from that. So, like it can change from year to year. It just depends. So, with that being said, though, I think another team that I liked was the Eagles. They pretty much like revamped their defense, getting Jalen Carter, who many thought was another guy that was probably the best player from this year's draft. And they also got Nolan Smith at pick 30. And quite frankly, they lost Hassan Reddick. That was their big loss in free agency. He went to the 49ers, which would be a huge pickup for them. But you replace them with 2 guys from Georgia, dogs, guys that were great in college. And I'm just looking at the Eagles defense. Offensively, we know the Eagles are really good. They're going to be good again next year. But defensively, you're looking at a team that's going to be like the best defense in the NFL, quite possibly. And they're young too. They have a nice influx of young and veteran talent. And the Eagles, I'm just going to say it right now. I know we're like way ahead of the season, but they're my pick to win the Super Bowl next year. I think they're that talented. And they really, outside of Hassan Reddick, they really haven't lost much either. You have Jason Kelsey coming back as your cornerstone center. Jalen Hurts, another year of elite play. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, year 2. I mean, this team, I think they're primed to make a legit run to another Super Bowl.
Yeah, I agree. That's another team in my division. I do not hate the Eagles. I really don't hate anybody in my division.
Yeah.
I'm a big Jalen Hurts fan because everything that he does and he did to get to where he is. Their receiving core is legit. Their running back room is legit. After adding Swift, even though they lost Miles Sanders, and like you said, every tool on defense, they lost a lot of starters. But adding Nolan Smith is gonna make their pass rush prolific. Adding Jalen Carter next to Jordan Davis, that's not gonna be exciting to go against, and they still have Fletcher Cox for another year too. So they was able to get both of their corners back. And Slay and Bradbury, and they should be just fine with the front 7 that they have put together. And they drafted N'Kobe Dean. Like y'all said, if you do everything right, you can stay really good or you can fall off the cliff. And I would say these Eagles' last 2 drafts have set them up to sustain the Jalen Hurts contract to be good for the next 3 years.
Yeah, and it all started really with just the Jordan Davis pick last year. Like, I think this team has just been winners in the draft, just overall. So, I mean, you got to give the Eagles credit. And honestly, they are an early favorite to win the Super Bowl because you still have your quarterback, too. I mean, Jalen Hurts, don't even talk about the draft. You still have Jalen Hurts. You still got A.J. Brown. You still have, Devontae Smith. In my opinion, that's the best duo of wide receivers you can have on a team. So, and then on top of that, you're going to add a lineman like Jalen Carter. Like, you can't go wrong with it.
No, you can't. You really can't, honestly. So, yeah, I mean, that was pretty much all, like, my biggest takeaways from the draft. I don't know if you guys had anything else noteworthy to add, pretty much, but that was, like, some of my biggest takeaways from the draft.
Yeah, I have to almost plug the Commanders here. is my team.
You gotta talk about him.
After the last I think this is Rivera's 4th draft. A lot of coaches don't really get an opportunity to stick around that long, not being a consistent playoff team. But I think Ron has had the luxury of staying the head coach and been a part of player personnel for 4 years, which you really see how he's been able to build the roster the way he wanted without having an owner over his shoulder. I was surprised that we went DB for our first two picks, first round and second round. But I really like what we did there because a lot of people were suspecting us to take Christian Gonzalez. I get it. I wanted Christian Gonzalez. I like Christian Gonzalez. But, the big thing for Commanders defense is being able to create turnovers. Right now, you don't have a corner who can create turnovers for you. You got young St. Juice who has made strides, and Kendall Fuller, who in his last year of his contract. You're going against the A.J. Browns. You're going against Devontae Smith. You need a guy who can be prolific and take the football away from Dane Jones, from Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott. I think Emmanuel Forbes was a really good pick for us. He really fits what we want to do. So I really like that pick. And he was able to get a versatile player from Illinois, Jatavius Bryant. He can play free safety. He can play nickel for you. Remind me of Garner Johnson. So I really like what we did in the first 2 picks of the draft, been able to add to the secondary and get some star power behind that defensive line.
Fair enough. I'll add one more thing to that though. So I mentioned my quick hitter, and I didn't get to it. So I wanted to just provide some context for our Pitt fans out there. So Kalijah Kancey back in 2019 was the 66th ranked defensive tackle and 118th ranked recruit out of Florida in 2019. This guy ended up going pick number 19 to the Buccaneers. He was one of 6 Panthers drafted in this year's NFL draft, which was the most, tied with Clemson for the most of any ACC team and the 5th most in college football. You also had Carter Warren, Israel Abanikanda, who we mentioned earlier, Servasia Dennis, Eric Hallett, and Brandon Hill were also selected in later rounds. You also had Jared Wayne, Habakkuk Baldonado, Desmond Alexander, Gabe Hoy. They signed free agent deals as well. And Marcus Minor and Tyler Wiltz also had minicamp invites. So what that says is no ACC team has had more players drafted over the last 3 years in Pitt. 14, they had 6 in 2021, 2 in 2022, and 6 in 2023. It's the most over a 3-span year for Pitt since 90 to 92. So that was my quick hitter for you.
That's Pitt for you. I mean, think about some of the talent they've produced. You got Dan Marino, Larry Fitzgerald, Aaron Donald, Darrelle Revis. It's not going to stop. Pitt's just like that, and it's cool to see, especially knowing that that's our hometown team.
Wow.
But I would like to add like a couple things I liked that I saw in the draft. One, Seattle. I mean, going out there and drafting Witherspoon with the 5th pick. I just overall liked what Seattle did and getting Derek Hall as well on defense. Jamal Adams should finally be back and fully healthy next year. Quandre Diggs had a good year with Tariq Woolen, excellent player last year. I really like what they're doing with their defense. Last year they shocked a lot of teams, and I think that the Seahawks are really bolstering that defense. Another shout out, I want to give a shout out to the Ravens for getting a steal in Trenton Simpson from Clemson. First of all, I think he could be 1st-round talent. And then I also like what they did drafting Zay Flowers. I know his stats are going to shock you, but he did play for Boston College. Zay Flowers on the 4.4 40, really good player. Just watch some of the highlights, how quick he could be. Great route runner. I like what they did there with that. And, lastly, I do want to say about Bryce Young for Carolina. I did like what Carolina did getting Mingo and Young. I know you lost DJ Moore, but that's another thing. We were talking about the divisions. That division isn't great. I know the Saints got Derek Carr now, so they're going to improve. But, I mean, Carolina, like that, I think that division is just going a little bit downhill right now. So getting Bryce Young, I think he's going to make an immediate impact.
Yeah.
I agree with all those. So one more thing. So the one pick that just came to my mind, the one thing I don't like, I didn't like the Will Levis pick, because he drafted a quarterback last year. And quite frankly, the Titans are looking to be one of the worst teams in the AFC, in my opinion. So hypothetically, if you're bad again and you're in a position to take another quarterback, I just think that's a very bad look.
It's
I think that it was a panic move, in my opinion. I wasn't big on Will Levis. Um, I get there's some people that like him. I'm not one of those guys. It's not personal, it's just on the field. But I don't know. We'll see. I hope it pans out for him though. But I just think that Malik Willis got a really raw deal out of all this, considering that he was a project and you're giving up on him after 1 year. I just don't like that at all. So
yeah. I'm glad the Colts at 4 went Anthony Richardson. Some people had Will Levis going to the Colts at 4. I thought that there was no better option for Anthony Richardson than the Colts getting the Eagles offensive coordinator, considering what he was able to do with Jalen Hurts, with that system. And, they have Jonathan Taylor. They have big receivers in Alec Pierce. They have Michael Pittman. So I think Anthony Richardson will fit well with the Colts. I'm glad they went there instead of Levis.
I agree with the whole Anthony Richardson thing. I mean, I'm usually not a huge fan of like the whole project thing. I don't think he's going to be good his first year just because of like his reads and stuff. But I will say this, like I said, I'm not usually huge on projects, but this guy is one of the most athletic quarterbacks you're going to find, maybe like literally ever. So I think it's worth the 4th pick for him. Will Levis, I think he could be a good quarterback. But I just think Anthony Richardson's upside is going to be insane. How could he, to the degree of how high he's going to go, that's to be determined. Just because I didn't really see a lot of him out of Florida, but he does have a killer arm. Like I said, very athletic. So yeah, I like the pick as well. And like I said, like what do you have to lose if you're the Colts right now? Like you might as well go for it, see what you can do with it.
yeah, no, I like the Anthony Richardson pick a lot too. Like you said, it's a project, so I hope they don't do the same thing what they did with Malik Willis. You throw him out there, even though that was not your intention before the season started. He does terribly, and then people will have this warped perception, and they give up hope on him, and then they're desperate and they reach for a quarterback. I hope they don't go down that route next year. I'll be very disappointed. Like you said, Anthony Richardson, while like he didn't light up the stat sheet in college, the highlight reel plays were there, and it was enough for the Colts to take him at number 4. I think has a chance to be the biggest boom or bust move. He can be very bad, but if they coach him right and everything goes according to plan, I think he'd be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Like that, I think that's his ceiling. And the first guy that comes to mind when I think of him is Cam Newton, just because of how athletically freakish he is. He can run. He has a cannon of an arm. So the traits are there. It's just a matter of like honing them in, reining them in, and getting him to produce at a better level in the pros. So I think don't play. I really hope they do not play him at all this year. As much as I want to see him on the field, just for curiosity reasons, I hope they did not play him and like have him be put in like compromising situations, because that would really suck. And I think that's the problem with a lot of these quarterbacks. We saw it with Trevor Lawrence. I mean, people were talking about giving up on him after one because he had one bad year. And we saw this year, if you give him the right coach, give him some talent, like he can do some things. So I think that's just the lesson to all like NFL fans, front office, like just don't give up on players after year 1. Sometimes it takes a year or 2 to figure things out. And, that's probably the best thing I could say for Anthony Richardson. It's going to take some time, but hopefully the Colts have patience and they don't pull a Titans move and draft a quarterback thinking that he'll like save them. I hate that. I just hate that.
Yeah, I think location, coaching is a big part of a young quarterback's development. I feel like that can't be stressed enough. Where you go, because like a lot of these quarterbacks, they fall into places where they don't have a lot of talent, or the coach that they are with is gone in a year or 2. Next thing you know, a new regime come in, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to add one more thing too. I just had another thought pop to mind. I think that this year is like tight ends. I mentioned Laporta earlier. I think Dalton Kincaid and Michael Meyer too, who's going to. So Kincaid's going to the Bills. Dude from Notre Dame, Meyer, he's going to the Raiders. I think those are like the fact that they got this tight ends late in the draft. Like Meyer might be one of the most athletic tight ends I've seen. They were comparing him to Jason Witten. I think he can be even more athletic than him, and I think both his tight ends are gonna be an immediate impact on the teams. But I do want to give one more shout out to another Pitt guy. He's not included in the Pitt list, but it's Jordan Addison because he transferred to USC, obviously. He's going to the Minnesota Vikings. Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison with Kurt, and like you saw last year with how Jefferson and Thielen did. They're moving on from Thielen, but I'm so excited to see how Jordan Addison does with Justin Jefferson. I really think that he could be a Rookie of the Year player this year.
No, I agree. And like just speaking on offense, Jefferson is going to be the guy, obviously. So when he has those double teams, it'll allow for Jordan Addison, I think, to have a really good year. So I think you're looking at two guys that potentially have two. You're looking at two guys that could have 1,000-yard seasons easily. I don't think it's a far cry to think that Jordan Addison could have 1,000 yards his rookie year and 10 touchdowns. I think he has to be in the running for offensive rookie of the year next year. He has to be one of the early candidates, in my opinion. So
it's like the Juju AB thing.
It is.
Like everyone doubled AB, and AB was the best wide receiver when they had Juju. Yeah. Now you have the best wide receiver in Justin Jefferson, and you have Jordan Addison with them, who's, in my opinion, probably the best wide receiver in this draft. So, yeah, they did a good job with it. I think the Vikings are going to take that division this year. There's no doubt in my mind. I think, I think that the Lions will be like around. This is obviously really early, but I think the Lions will be out there. But I think the Vikings have a lot of firepower this year, and I if I'm not mistaken, I think they'll have Hawkinson back as well and Delvin Cook as well. So, yeah, high hopes for Minnesota.
Fair enough. Do you want to add anything else, Clarence?
Nah, that's all my thoughts.
Fair enough. Anything else, Tony?
No, that's all I got. Yeah, I think that was a good little recap of the draft.
No, I'd have to agree too. And yeah, that was pretty much our draft recap. Maybe we'll do it again in a year. We'll see how that pans out. But yeah, I mean, you can find our show on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast from. Just search the Rossetti and Stewart Podcast. Great doing the podcast as always. And Clarence, thanks for joining us. You're more than welcome to come back on for future episodes if you so choose to desire.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. I have watched his channel before, but I didn't realize that Tony actually knew you. Like, y'all do it together. I didn't really know that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I see the channel pop up all the time, like the podcast.
Oh, wow. All right.
On YouTube.
Shoot.
Yeah, for background information, Clarence goes to my Tuesday night youth group
okay.
Here at church. So, yeah. And I said, dude, we were talking about the draft a couple weeks ago. I'm like, you should come on our podcast. And I sent him the link over. He's like, wait, I've seen this before. So I thought that was small world after all, right? And I'm not talking about the Disney ride. So,
you know what? You know the saying, it is a small world, especially in Pittsburgh, too. Especially in Pittsburgh.
Hey, there's not a lot of people living in Pittsburgh. I mean, it's a city atmosphere. It's weird. It's like you get the city atmosphere, but it's not overwhelmingly big. So.
No, it's not. No, it is not. So.
Yeah, but anyways, thank you again for joining us, Clarence, and we look forward to seeing you back on the podcast and stuff. And yeah, we'll catch you guys on our next podcast.
Adios, amigos. Adios.